Good morning, everybody, and welcome to JOC Huddle training number 25, understanding the JOC contract. And I added a bonus on here, using JOC for maintenance tasks. Today is August 25th, 2023. Here's a quick look at our agenda, a little bit of welcome housekeeping, talk about JOC regional contracts, Center of JOC Excellence. I'll hand it over to Gordian. We'll do some question and answers, and hopefully have a pretty lively conversation today about JOC. So let's get things started. As many of you know, there's a ton of JOC regional contracts ready to be used. If you haven't tried JOC before, just give it a try. I think you'll like it, and you're more than welcome to use. Gordian can't get to this, but all campuses should be able to get into the intranet site and be able to use our regional contract. So I just threw that link in the chat. If you wouldn't mind actually muting yourself, I'd appreciate it too. That'd be cool, because we're recording for CSU Learn. Thank you. So Gordian has actually set up a contractor evaluation. So if you go into the Gordian Cloud right now, once you're through procurement, construction, and closeout, there's a tab for contractor evaluation. Super easy to fill out, and I'd like everybody to fill it out. This only helps other campuses and myself learn what contractors we love, what contractors we're meh about. You can actually even leave little comments here right behind. Actually, this is, if you guys look, we had a Dumpke roof repair project that Exbon came in, and they did some awesome work, and I let them know. Or actually, it looks like I didn't like their contractor superintendent, but it's very easy to use. I'd request that everybody on the line, if you're going to use the job order contracting, that you go in and try out the contractor evaluation. Don't forget, the Center of JOC Excellence training program is ready for you to use. We had a great turnout earlier this summer. We had a few folks from Gordian. We had a bunch of folks from campus that actually already that went through all 3 days. They took the exam, passed it, and we already have some official CJPs, which you can actually put in after your signature block to be a certified JOC professional. So I'll drop a link in the chat if you want to learn more about this, or you can always talk to me, because I'm not only a client, I'm also one of the presidents of the Center of JOC Excellence. Got an upcoming CJE event. You can I'll throw this link in the chat as well. It's an Ask the Owners virtual forum. So wherever you are in California, you can come in and find out and ask different questions from the owners. I'll be there. Orange County Public Works will be there. LAUSD will be there, and the County of San Diego will be there as well. Please join us. It's a free event, so you can actually see how JOCs run with other owners. So I'm going to hand it over to Gordian right now and let them take over the next few slides.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cynthia Orozco. I'm with Gordian. I'm a senior account manager. Today, we're going to talk about what the components of a JOC contract are comprised of. This is meant to be collaborative, by the way. This is not meant to be super formal. So if you have any situations that you've come across where you've had to utilize your contract to your advantage, if you have examples of things that you've learned from combing through the general conditions, feel free to jump in. If you have any questions, of course, chime in. But the importance of this topic is really so that you guys know what tools are available to you through your JOC contract, right? We all have that circumstance where we don't know how exactly to engage a contractor, maybe because they're not being responsive, or maybe because they're not meeting their DVBE requirements. So this is where your JOC contract really does come in handy. Or maybe it's just a proposal. You're going back and forth and you can't come up with the bottom dollar. This is where these components come in handy. So again, feel free to chime in if there's anything I missed on here, if there's any examples you guys can provide, hop on in. So a couple of key components here are, number one, obviously your executed agreement. Make sure you have that in place before you issue out a job, any job at all. And actually, there's been an update to the general conditions where your contract doesn't begin until your first job order is issued. So use that to your advantage, right? If you guys need to lengthen out a smidge of your contract, you can prolong when you kick off your first job. The second part of that is your general conditions, right? It's not that big, honestly. It's about, what is it, Jeremy, 70, 80?
Yeah, I think it's only 71 pages at this point.
71
Yeah.
pages. Okay.
You can
So if
read that
you
in your
need,
sleep. That's easy to read.
if you can't fall asleep at night and you need some, a good book to pick up for general conditions, guys.
Hey, I worked really hard on that.
No, but
It
really it
puts me to
does have
sleep
a lot
too.
of good information on it. Highly, highly, highly recommend. At least know what sections are in there so you know what to look for. The chancellor's office obviously issues out a set of supplementary general conditions, but you as a campus have the power to issue out your own special conditions. And we'll get into that in just a second, but also comprises your catalog. That is actually a contract document, and a legally binding contract document. And I'll show you why in a second. It's so important to know that specific little detail there. And obviously your technical specs. So a couple of topics that are covered within your general conditions, just so you guys know, these do get updated on an annual basis. Jeremy does a really great job of keeping up with that. And so on this last iteration, there was a few updates that I'll show you in a sec, but key components that are talked about: the bidding process, the awarding and execution of a contract, how the contractor's expected to conduct work. That's a biggie, right? What are the rules for showing up to a job site? How they're expected to adhere to their scope and procedure on an individual job order basis, how they're expected to interpret and adhere to their contract requirements, as well as how to deal with changes in scope, changes or claims, damages, and how exactly they're going to get paid out. So it's important to know these things. Firstly, what about when a contractor hasn't gotten a proposal to you in 3 weeks? Well, your GCs actually state that they're required to submit it over to you within 14 days. What about if they have one supervisor that's spread across 6 or 7 different sites on campus, and for some reason you can't seem to get a hold of them? Well, the general conditions also state that they're required to provide on-site full-time supervision on every single job. So again, super, super important. This last iteration of the general conditions have a couple of biggies on there. The one from most recently from this past year, if you want to go to the next slide, Jeremy. Yeah, talks about DVBE as well. What kind of sanctions you can hold if they're not meeting their DVBE requirements, what kind of documentation is required. This one's a big one that we have a hard time with our contractors, is making sure that they're adhering to their DVBE requirements. So make sure that you're up to speed on what the general conditions allow you to do, to be able to hold your contractors accountable for that.
Cindy, you're exactly right on this one, and I think I've got a couple of campuses on the line that have already been pinged by DGS about submitting their DVB reporting. So 2 campuses have already been lit up, and I highly recommend that you make sure that you familiarize yourself and make sure that your contractor is fulfilling their DVB requirements, because it could get messy and expensive.
Yeah, absolutely, it could. Also, did you guys know that as a campus, you guys can issue out your own set of special conditions? So this is something to supplement your GCs. So think of this as an added layer that's specific to your campus. So things that I would take advantage of including on there. So your proposal time requirements, if you need it sooner than the 14 days, right? What about when they need to submit RFIs? What's the timeline look like for that? If you guys are going to be doing a proposal review, how soon do you want those responses to come back to you? What about for any type of modifications? What is the turnaround time on that? As well as how do you want them to deal with any type of emergency work? So let's say you have a quick job that needs to be in and out within a week. How do you want them to deal with that? So a couple other things that often get missed: computer and communication requirements, right? Making sure that your contractors are all trained up to a certain level, and have a level of communication with you throughout the life cycle of the project. These are all things that you can stipulate in these special conditions. Your construction safety requirements that are specific for your campus only. If you guys have certain requirements that are unique to your campus because of your location, specify those. And get into the weeds of even like a management plan. You can require them to supply you key personnel, a list of key personnel. What is their plan for supervising and coordinating their subcontracts? What are their plans for quality control and quality assurance on all of their jobs? What are the requirements for record keeping, as well as the communication flow between all of the projects? And of course, what are your documentation requirements for your specific campus? If you guys have a certain process that you abide by within your campus, that's a little bit different from every other one, right? Everybody's unique. put that in your special conditions. There are some really great examples that have already been implemented across Cal State. So if you guys want to see a sample of that, feel free to reach out to your favorite account manager and they can provide that over to you. Awesome. So the CTC, that's actually a legally binding document as a part of your contract. So the big part of that is not only is the catalog, but there's a part of the catalog called Understanding the Construction Task Catalog. That's the first 6 pages of the book. That's also a legally binding document. So
So
for
that,
those
hold
who
on,
are, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna have you hold on that point
Yeah,
right there. So it's I'm gonna see if I can pull it up really quick, but
yeah,
those
go for it.
that understanding the catalog, that's something that I have at my fingertips. I print out, I have posted on the side of my desk. It's not only important for contractors, but it's important for project managers. There's an actual there's a conversion table. There's a lot of language about what shouldn't what you should be watching out for extras, where the contractor's like trying to throw in like a flagman or a shade cloth. They're trying to throw in shade cloth, and you're working inside of a library. Well, they don't need shade cloth in a library or lavatories or, oh, there it is right there. Has everybody seen that before? It's very valuable. I'd highly recommend printing it out, leaving it on the side of your desk so you can learn more about how the CTC works. And Cynthia, how many, actually Zeb or Cynthia, how many items are in the CTC right now? Do you guys have a ballpark estimate?
I would say, I don't know,
I want to say
30,000,
about,
30, maybe
no, it's like
30,000 line items and
300,000,
counting.
300,000? Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like that.
and counting.
It's big. It's a big book.
I had a campus call me asking if if Gordian could add water bottle dispensers, right? Where you put your water bottle in, it fills up the water. If they could add that. And I looked it up, there's like 30 of them. Like already there's already 30. If there's extra ones, let Gordian know, they can find it for you. But I mean, the book has almost everything you could imagine in it, except for real custom items.
Yeah, if it's general construction, B license and not specialty, you can get up to the hundreds of thousands of line items. Easy. For the specialty ones, we can scale, it's usually scaled back a little bit. We'll remove some line items, but yeah, hundreds of thousands of line items. I just thank God we don't have to order them and have hard copies, that people don't want hard copies anymore.
Yeah.
So we're saving trees.
Well, I heard somebody on your team actually ordered hard copies once, right? Right.
You had to bring that up. You had to.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was a rookie. I didn't know then, guys. I think some of you who have done training with me know this story already about when I first started at Gordian and I ordered a catalog because I thought I needed to have a hard copy of it. And I lived upstairs in an apartment and my poor UPS man hated me for a very long time.
How many boxes and binders was it?
Oh man, it was about 7 boxes, I want to say, like full big boxes, just with, it could have probably occupied all of my wall here. It was insane. Yeah, don't do that, guys. Just go on Gordian Cloud, use a digital copy. It's very user friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't print it out.
And that, or just use Control F. You can pretty much
use Control F.
anything.
Yes, we can get you a PDF copy if you prefer that, but don't do it. Don't do it. I promise you. Your delivery man will hate you forever.
Someone mentioned they figure it goes out of date quickly. Yeah, we renew and update the construction task catalog as we renew the annual contracts. So at least on an annual basis, we have the items updated.
So now on this last right now on the regional contracts, Gordian issued CTCs in January, February, and then I just bid out 4 more regional contracts in the north and in the south. So Gordian made me new books starting with a July 2023 date. So now those are going to be much more current to right now. So the new contracts will be a lot more current.
Awesome. So the big thing I would say to take away from this catalog section in specific is have the understanding that those first 6 pages within the catalog are still a part of the contract. these are your rules of the game for operating your book. So your book is based on local labor, material, and equipment costs, and those 6 pages will tell you what we mean by labor, material, and equipment. It also goes through the things that are covered in their adjustment factor. So ideally, like Jeremy said, print this out, keep this next to you when you're reviewing your proposal, and literally just comb through it. Start before you even look at every proposal, look at these 6 pages first and then hop into your proposal, because I promise you, you will save money that way. And this is how you can really hold your contractors accountable, because when they sign their contract, they also got a copy of the CTC. So they are aware that they are being held to this book.
And
Not
that's a contract document, so they have to follow it.
It is. They have to, and we cannot bend to this. That's why we always say it's not a negotiation. It's really just how do we adhere to the scope. So recommend it. We can do a whole training session on this, honestly. If you, I would recommend reach out to your AM and let them know that you want a deep dive into the big note, because you can spend a whole hour. You can spend 2 hours just talking about the big note, honestly. So reach out to your AMs and set up that training.
Well, maybe
So
that's
one
our
of the
next
things
JOC
that are
Huddle.
talked.
Maybe
Oh,
that's our
that's a
next
good one.
JOC
Yeah,
Huddle,
let's do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that is talked about in there is labor. Labor is a biggie within in JOC, right? We have this question come up quite frequently. Well, our contractor's adding just a bunch of labor hours, and there's already tasks in the book that account for labor. Well, if your contractor's only going to be performing the labor, then they can definitely use that. So think about if you're having them come on site and just performing maintenance work and you're providing the equipment and material, for sure. Or even if they're you're going to be providing the equipment and not the material. So there's ways of navigating it. You can use your labor line items for low level maintenance work. However, if you are going to be using it for a task, if there's already a task in the book that is quantified, that labor, equipment, and material costs within the quantity of the unit price, then they are required to use that line item. Make sense? So labor does include workers up to a 4-person level, and the cost of supervisors and PMs that do not perform the work are actually already accounted for in their adjustment factor. So you either account for it through labor, whether it's through Division 1, because you're having them do maintenance work, or within the unit price, it's already accounting for all of that. And site supervision, as we said, is already covered in their adjustment factor, and the general conditions also state that they're required to provide full-time on-site supervision. Yeah. Also, as I mentioned, it is at a 4-person level, but it is at straight time prevailing wage. And it does include their fringe benefits and an allowance for Social Security, Medicare, workers' comp, unemployment insurance, and employee benefits. So the hourly rates that we use to calculate the labor do actually appear in the CTC through Division 1. So if you ever are curious to know what exactly how those rates apply, go to Division 1. And again, those can be utilized as well if you're just having them do the labor on site.
There's a couple of dozen different labor rates that you can use. Everything from flat labor rates, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, to I think I even saw security guards on there. You could hire a security guard and an armed security guard should your university need an armed security guard for whatever reason. But just letting you know, I know a lot of things are changing in the next couple of months. So if you're on campus and you need labor hours, maintenance hours, this might be a good option for your campus.
And I also want to encourage too, even though like Cynthia mentioned that you may already have task items in there that include labor, material, and equipment. If there's some specialty tasks that you need and we need to use labor rates and stuff in your proposal, still encourage your contractors to make sure they have they fill in their user notes for why they're using tasks for both tasks that are in their proposal and for the labor rates, just so down the line, for not only for review purposes but also down the line, if you're auditing a proposal, you can see why labor rates were used and you can kind of reflect on it, and it's pretty clear and right there in your proposal. So similar to any of the other line items, always encourage them to use user notes and fill in for why they're using line items in your proposals.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. And it's also a recommendation, I believe,
Mhm.
in either, I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but it's either in those first 6 pages of the CTC or somewhere in their GCs where they say that they're required to provide notes on their line items. So yeah, on the next slide, just so you guys know, labor already also includes quite a couple of other fun things. So it includes the unloading of equipment, of material and tools, and transporting them to the same up or down 2.5 stories and within 125 reach of the project site. That's a big one that we see, loading and unloading, right? There's always somebody trying to sneak in that line item. It's already included within the labor portion of the task. So measuring and cutting to fit, performing the test, as well as disposal of excess material, that's a big one that I see commonly as well. And time for lunch and breaks. So the goal here is to capture all of the labor costs that's needed to perform the tasks, from taking the materials off the truck and disposing them and everything else in between. So again, we don't negotiate how many hours it takes to unload materials, move them around to the site. All we give is, if you're going to be using a labor task, it'll give you the hours for that. But if you're going to be doing the install task, it'll just specify based on the square footage of the area that you're working around, based on the cubic yardage, whatever the unit of measure is for that specific task. And lastly here on this next slide.
Hold on, we actually have we're gonna hold that question until we get to Q&A file. So we'll be right there. We'll be right there in a second to Q&A, but we'll be right with you on that one.
So yeah, if materials need to be transported more than 2.5 stories or beyond 125 feet, and I think that kind of answers his question here, the contractor is entitled to add the appropriate task to cover those costs. So if it's going to be going within 125 feet of the project site and they're going to be disposing off site, but it's within 125 feet, it's accounted for in the labor. If they're hauling off more than 125 feet, then they are going to get that disposal charge separately. So in those cases, the quantity for which the contractor can be paid out is either the number of floors or the distance, depending on where they're transporting those materials to. So, and think of it as either the perimeter of the project site to measure it out, or the actual location of the work to where they're going to be hauling off. And then you would just use the line item to transfer the materials greater than 125 feet.
Cynthia, we recently used this. We did a demo project at the chancellor's office where we removed sliding cabinets. And not only did I want them removed, but I wanted them disposed of. Well, they couldn't, they're huge sliding cabinets, so they couldn't just throw them in our dumpster. They actually had to take them out all the way out to the landfill and recycle them, which is quite far away. So they were due that fee, so we paid it.
Yeah, and it does happen. We want to make sure that the contractors get paid out appropriately. That is all. The cost is the cost. But what we want to do is make sure that it's not just somebody tossing it in one of your campus dumpsters and then charging you for hauling off something, right?
Right.
It doesn't count as hauling if it's in the dumpster. All right. And lastly here, the biggie is your technical specifications. If you guys have your own technical specs that are being applied to each of the jobs, those will always supersede ours. They will. But think of this as your safety net for one of those napkin sketch kind of projects, a quick job. This is where our technical specs would come in. And just so you know, all technical specs, whether they're ours or yours, are considered a legally binding document. Ours just happen to correspond with the tasks in the CTC. So if you guys haven't utilized it in the past, I would recommend just giving it a quick glance through so you know what available resources are there for you, because they are very comprehensive. Cool.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, no problem.
So now we're at I just picked it. We're at the question and answers portion of our huddle. So I think we got you. Do you want to unmute and see if we answered your question correctly? Did we get you? He can unmute. Do we have any more questions regarding today's presentation? Anything about JOC, maybe DVB questions? Anything, folks?
Comments, examples of things that have happened in the past where your GCs come in handy?
Okay. Oh, Robert's got his thank you. Robert's got his hand up.
Hi.
Hey,
I was just going to give you a interesting example. On the labor hours, there was a point, Cal Poly Pomona is our own water purveyor. And so there was a point where we're working on our water system, and the water system had to be serviced. We had to put some pumps in. So overnight, I actually used the security guard line item back in the day for a few weeks. Yeah.
look at that.
So was it the armed one or the unarmed one? I'm just curious.
Unarmed.
Okay, unarmed. Fair enough. Yeah. Also just asked, could I create a drawing?
Can you clarify on that?
Yeah. Would that be a plus or minus? Yeah, I don't know. Like a drawing, like, could you pay your contractor for, oh, sorry. So
That's okay.
could you pay your contractor for like a shop drawing or maybe like a sketch or something? I think that's what you mean. I think that's what he means. And there is.
Incidental on shop drawings, yeah.
Yeah. They're definitely.
Incidental and shop drawings are actually already included in their adjustment factor, guys. Just so you guys know.
But if it's a separate,
if it's
like
a formal.
if it's a formal, maybe for like an approval or something, I'm guessing is probably.
Yeah.
If anything's additional that's kind of incidental in the form of shop drawing that's requested as part of the scope of work to go a little bit beyond.
Yeah.
Just a simple incidental drawing is you have a line item that you can have reimbursable fees for that, or maybe a more on point descriptive line item that may cover it. If it's, something a little bit above and beyond that's requested of the
something more than the back of a napkin, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like an actual CAD, or maybe even it's a blue beam markup of what of the work that's going to occur. So
usually a good rule of thumb is that if you've got something that has to be engineered or stamped by an engineer or approved by an architect, that's where you're going to run into that, to being able to reimburse them for that.
Well, like the project we had at the chancellor's office where we were installing display screens, and they're huge screens, but the wall wasn't going to be able to hold it. So we had to beef up the wall. We had to add extra studs. So the contractor did provide like a detail of how that would what that looks like. We got it approved, and the project was a go. So, which would be an additional fee.
And actually, Fausto, for the purpose, if you were to create your own, yes, we actually highly recommend on any jobs that you can provide your own drawings, provide your own sketches. It goes a really, really long way to provide that in advance to your contractor. So I would just make that a rule of thumb. If you guys can create your own drawings and have that in advance of your joint scope meeting, yes, absolutely do so.
Well, you're just gonna have a lot more control and reduce your risk of supplementals going wild, really. Any more questions, guys? Are we
That's a good JOC Huddle topic.
Is EV charging installation in CTC? It absolutely is, Jennifer. If you look in our north parking lot, you'll see quite a few EV chargers. I use it as a JOC contract. The charger heads were in there. The electrical work was in there. The digging, the paving, yeah, it is all part of the CTC, and we can dial that in if you wanted to do like a specific JOC contract procurement for installing EV. I'm sure Gordian can help out with that to get really dialed into all of the different charger heads and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Great questions, by the way.
Great, awesome questions. So good. Any more today? If not, you can always email me or any of your Gordian team members if you've got any questions that come up later today or later in the year, whatever you need. So upcoming CSU trainings, we're excited to announce that Law of Design and Construction, I meant to put 2023 is on. It's going to be at Cal State Long Beach. Save the dates, November 15th through the 16th. Very popular. This is where Office of General Counsel, our whole team at the Chancellor's office, and we actually have some campus folks talking as well about how Law of Design and Construction works on all of your projects in regards to the SUAM, in regards to every capital and minor cap and large capital project. Campus staff are highly recommended to attend the Gordian University online. I think it's called Absorb, right? Zeb, is that right? I think that's My Absorb or something, right? I think that's what it's called. We can make sure you guys get hooked up with that. All previous JOC huddles are on CSU Learn and SumTotal. And thank you guys very much for attending today.